Hello and welcome to this episode of the Out on a Limb podcast. Today I have with me the fantastic Dean Beirne, who his name I hopefully pronounced correctly.
Yes, you got it right. Yeah.
Not Beirne, not Beirne.
It's not the word. I've had it been like Beirne, Beirne.
Beirne is.
Yeah, I don't even know where the Beirne one came from. That was just like one gig I did years ago, and it's just. I think the guy was just off his face
and hungry.
Hungry, yeah. To be fair, Beirne's class, so I don't really blame him.
Yeah.
So.
That's fair. That's a good karma to be karma. Good cutty.
Oh, the Indian community is going to hate this podcast.
I know, that's it. Ruined.
Your local takeaway is not cooking delivering anymore.
They are. They're called Original India as well, and I love them. I don't know. Don't hate me. They get here in because they're literally round the corner, and I hate paying for delivery, but my boyfriend's really lazy, so he will pay for the delivery even though it's like 30 seconds away, so it arrives in like 15 minutes, which is amazing. So I don't want to get on the wrong side of Original India.
No, I get the delivery thing because I don't want the responsibility of having to carry the food, because if you drop the food then that's your fault and you've ruined dinner and then everything sucks.
I think that's a really logical reason. His reason is I think his is a similarly anxious reason in that he doesn't want to go into the shop, which means I always have to go and I have to answer the door.
He's racist. Is that?
That's it. And he'll never watch this, so he'll never know. Yes. No, he's not. He's not. God.
We're girls doing a podcast about stand-up comedy. It's Out on a Limb.
Cool. So yeah, this is Dean. For those of you who don't know, Dean is like so far the most established comic
God.
by a long way that
Oh no.
I've had on. So you have. I mean, you're now at least 2 television appearances.
Yeah.
That's practically famous.
It's not.
I met someone who was on TV and I was like, yes, that is me famous now.
If it was 10 years ago, maybe, but not now. TV industry with comedy's changed so much nowadays to what it used to be.
In what way?
It doesn't blow up your career as much anymore. You know, it's a lot more with the online and the social media stuff and making sure you have an online presence, which I kind of get, because that's that's why Have a Word started, because it was taking the power back from a lot of gatekeepers that were in comedy. And those gigs are the telly gigs are still great to do. They're great for boosting your career and everything, but it's not the same as it was 10 years ago, just because the landscape of comedy has changed.
Yeah, I suppose I remember you would watch Live at the Apollo and that would be someone's big break. That would be go on Live at the Apollo and suddenly you were everywhere on every panel show.
Don't get me wrong, Live at the Apollo, if you want to book me, you feel free to do that, because I'd love to come on Live at the Apollo and be in the Hammersmith and make you all laugh. Yeah, I've been on TV before. I'd be good for it.
Yeah, exactly. You're I am a safe bet. Look, I've got
safe
through
bet.
So far.
That sums me up perfectly.
Hey,
I'm incredibly safe.
You're not safe. I think you go pretty hard in some of your comedy, and not in the way that maybe Alan J, for example, your comedy podcast host,
very good friend,
friend, etc. Yeah, because his stuff is comparatively cutthroat. You go, oh jeez, Alan. But I love it.
I'm Nightmare on Elm Street. Alan's Saw.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Definite edge, some spice, but not quite as horrifying and traumatizing it would seem.
I used to be like that when I started, though, and I just anytime I was doing it, I just felt like this doesn't really suit who I am as a person, so I just kind of shied away from doing it, because I prefer being daft with my comedy rather than going for that. Alan, it comes very naturally to him, and it actually adds to his jokes, so I get why he does it.
He's got, it seems to be quite a common theme of being I mean, you said that Alan's not ginger. I think he's a bit ginger.
Is he ginger? He's got brown hair though.
But he's fair. He's got the
Jack
same
Trainer is ginger.
That's true, Jack
Peter
Trainer.
Bell is ginger. Alan is not ginger.
I was gonna compare him to Peter because I was thinking it's that specky. I'm also specky.
That's those specky hot dogs. Love them to death, but
yeah, they're
the
harsh
speckiest
and...
of speckies. Yeah.
But it's that same kind of like very, very sharp wit, but like proper cuts as well.
There was actually I think a year or so ago, Jack and Peter went down to do the Stockton Gong, and Jack, being as he is, decided to start a rumor in our group chat that Peter Bell sleeps with his glasses on.
Jack's so funny for
Which
that, like,
I know wasn't real, but it feels like it could be real knowing Peter. So,
it's just like asleep in there, like head back, and then just someone walks in so he can immediately see them. Like, just he's an
specky Dracula.
He's clearly incredibly paranoid. So yeah, I was gonna go through some of the spectacular things that you have done, have been on, etc., and what's kind of going to come up and what we'll talk about more of. So you were the 2023 BBC New Comedy
Awards finalist.
Finalist. I got that right. I've watched it. I mean, I should know. Who was it you were on with Lauren? Was on the same one?
So from the heat that we did, the semi-final, it was me, Lauren Stephen, Daniel Petrie, who I love, and Kyra Gray from and Alex McKeith, I think.
Do you know, I've watched them all, but I can't remember. But the ones that I know, you know. Daniel is so funny. I literally have seen him.
An absolute wordsmith of a boy.
Yeah. I've seen him make, like, just come into, like, a course with Viv one day and just be, like, 10-minute rant, totally off the top of his head about how much he hates lollipop people. And it's like, he's like, I'm like, did you really just come in and do that, or have you been writing that for 6 months?
See, I've known Daniel for like 2 years now, and I wouldn't know. Like, he's got a way with words that is just fantastic. Like, he's a very unique comic.
He's one of those people that kind of like drops something into a conversation, and you're not expecting it, and then you all just like lose it because it's just where the hell did that come from? Yeah,
he's a very good friend, and I'm glad that he was at the semi-final because like if I hadn't known anybody there, then I would have freaked out.
That's so nice though. That's like, I find that that's really a good thing with comedy, is that you kind of all hold each other up and support each other, or well, you hope, most people.
Well, yeah, there's an element of that to it, and also you've got to be able to stand on your own as well. You can't just be holding people's hands for your entire career.
True. That's true.
Unless you're like in a sketch group or something where like that's what it's designed for.
Like, if you're a team.
Yeah, like if you're doing the Monday night improv stuff that like Billy Kirkwood does, or the things that Stu Murphy does, like a lot of that is based around like, yeah, we've all got your back. When comedy, there's still something like that. You know, you can have friends in it that you can run bits by or help develop stuff with, but once you go out on stage, it's all you. Yeah,
that's true. You're like standing up there, and they'll be sitting in the audience going, "Whoo, that was really funny," and you're just like, I know it wasn't. Like, I know I did not sell that bit at all, but yes, that's awesome. So you done that. You are also a host of the Blood, Sweat and Fears podcast
yes.
with Alan J and Kyle Samuel. Yeah.
Yeah, I love those two dearly. It's that started out as I think it was 2022 we started, or it could have been 2023. Yeah, it was 2023. I just wanted to do a pod about something that I loved, and horror movies is something that I think is very similar to the way that you structure comedy. I think you build up to a scare in a horror film the same way that you build up to a joke in a comedy set.
I love that.
And just naturally, there's a lot of similarities in the structure there, and getting comedians on to just have a laugh about horror films is just a really fun way to spend an hour.
It's a really good concept, and like, people who are into horror are really into horror, so it's like you would get people would get really into that. I really like that.
Yeah, like we've had some really fun guests on that. I think last year we had Ignacio Lopez on, and he's massively into horror, like a massive geek, and Alan wasn't actually there for that one. He was ill, so called in Darren Connell last minute to co-host. had so much fun. It was just like three geeks talking about horror movies, and it was like that feeling that you had when, like when you were young and you've maybe just watched a horror film without your parents knowing, and then you walk into school feeling like you're the most coolest motherfucker on the planet. And you're so excited to talk about it with your friends about it. Like, that's the kind of vibe I wanted to get for Blood, Sweat, and Fears right from the beginning.
I am the total opposite in that I am the person texting my parents say, can you come pick me up, they've put on a scary movie. It's like my mate made me watch the first 20 minutes of like Hannibal, and I just like didn't sleep for like 3 weeks after
How
that.
old were you?
I was probably like 13.
Wuss.
I know.
I was watching Saw daily by then.
No, I am such a chicken when it comes to that stuff. Like I say, I would watch it for the art. I would watch it, and I also really appreciate like the style of it all, and like that same thing, the build up to the the crescendo, and then the silence and the ringing silence. And I think there's so much in terms of audio and movie production and writing that makes horror spectacular, but I'm a big baby.
Well, even if you just compare it to like how you do a comedy set, like even within that, there's different styles of horror. There's different tropes in horror. Like a jump scare could be considered like a one-liner in a comedy set. A rule of three could just be like a sort of long scene where you're like setting things up and then getting like your scare at the end of it. And then you get the more like storytelly, whimsical, kind of more abstract, minimalist kind of comedy, which could be compared to something like Midsommar or The Shining or something like that. So just like with comedy and there being so many different genres and so many different ways to do it, you get that with horror films as well. And I like exploring the different ways that directors and writers and even actors, when they bring their own like style to it, can do the same kind of things, but in ways that are unique to them. And I like doing that with comedy. Like if I was to compare my my kind of style to a horror director, I don't know, probably something like pretty fast paced, quick witted. Like that's what I try to go for. I mean, it's up to the audience if I succeed at that, but
yeah. It's always the audience.
Daniel Petrie is definitely like, if I was to compare him to a horror film, it'd probably be like one of the ones that on the surface seems weird, but when you break it down is like very smart and like just to the point and really funny. Because I don't know how he does it. He manages to do so many different like emotions and beats within his comedy set that's just really subtle and really earned. He's like a brilliant joke writer. Like
he's very beat heavy actually. Like he uses so many different structures throughout. Like there's a lot of comics that you find, I even find myself getting stuck in certain tropes like the rule of three and stuff, because that's what happens when you're early in writing. Like I've felt myself develop out of it somewhat already, but like his is very moves about in pace, and that keeps you on your toes. And I think that I mean, it's the same thing. It's the anticipation is what makes comedy so good and what makes horror so good.
Yeah.
I like your analytical breakdown of it all as well. Like I think
that's the autism talking cat.
But like me too. Like, yeah, I have ADHD, but neurodivergent means that we all think like nutters, and like that structural breakdown of everything. It's the same thing I do with comedy. The reason I love comedy is because I'll sit and watch something and I won't necessarily laugh at something because I like the punchline, but because I'll be like, oh, that was very clever how you got there. I like that.
It's why horror movies that have humor to them tend to be, I tend to enjoy them better. Like I'd much rather watch something like Scream or A Nightmare on Elm Street or like Child's Play than something like The Shining if I had a choice. Yeah. Because The Shining, I feel like that's something you really need to be in the mood for.
Yeah, I think that, I maybe I'm being dishonest about my appreciation of horror movies, to be fair, because I watched the Cornetto trilogy, watched
great
a million times.
Got a lot of horror influences in that.
Yeah, I mean it's inherently, I mean, zombies and all of that, and
Slasher and Hot Fuzz, B-movie sci-fi and World's End.
Exactly, yeah. So it's definitely like across that range of stuff. I like Supernatural because it's like campy, cute, like silly.
So, have you ever seen Evil Dead?
No, but I know like a lot about it.
You would
anyways.
probably like the original Evil Dead films. They've gotten very gory lately, but the OG ones Sam Raimi did are great.
And they're all quite comedy influenced as well, aren't
Yeah,
they? They weren't
comedy
originally,
influenced,
and
but
then-
also quite. They definitely go for the horror, but they're very good at blending the horror and the comedy together.
It's yeah, I think that's one I think has been recommended to me before for the exact same reason. Weirdly enough, I actually used to do scare acting with a group called Scare Scotland.
Scare is that just when you hide in the alleyways and jump out at people?
Pretty much just strangers, not people who've paid
There's
to
a bunch
be
of
there.
people
just
doing that for free. Sometimes they've brought guitars with them as well, or Mormons just with Bibles and shit.
Oh yeah, yeah. I noticed that during Fringe that there was a guy every day on the bridge handing out handing out flyers for a free personality test, and anytime someone would take one when I was passing, I would just be going, "They're Scientologists, run!" I'm like, I can't believe even the Scientologists are taking advantage of the.
Hey,
Edinburgh
look,
Fringe.
they've got to get their people in somehow. I
Yep.
understand it. You know, the Scientologists, they just want a full room every night, and they
Yep.
want to feel their investment is paid off. You know,
Yeah.
I get it. I get it.
Can't blame them. Well,
Tom Cruise can't fund all of them. You know, like,
and yeah, John Travolta's drying up. It's
oh god, he looks dried up. You know,
Yeah.
he looks like a fruit that's been left out too long. You know, like
harsh. I mean, fuck him, he's a Scientologist. You're fine. That's it. I'm gonna like hashtag Scientology, and then they will be outside my house for the next. That's the kind of horror I like, real life horror.
Oh, there's one there.
Yeah,
Like,
I was like got so into Scientology for a while. Like I watched so many documentaries, read so much stuff on them because I was just like, I was like, this is so weird. And I guess that's kind of like the same kind of fascination thing. What was it? There was another horror thing that I was gonna compare to. I guess it's horror. It verges on thriller. I really like thrillers.
Thriller's just a subgenre of horror.
Yeah, exactly right. Is Alien. Like
I'd say Alien's more in the horror camp, but
yeah, like because so Alien is like one of my favorite films, and I think like the thing that makes it so masterful is that it's you for the first one anyway. You don't see the xenomorph for more than like
it's like the Jaws effect.
yeah, which that was unique. That I was. It was another podcast called The Rest Is Entertainment that I was listening to, and they were talking about Jaws and the fact that Spielberg basically had to invent this whole new way of filming something that wasn't there, and how that's why Jaws has like become such a
It's
epic.
like it became more of like a Hitchcockian thriller than it did like a monster film.
yeah, and that's why it's like lived for so long.
Aliens are really interesting. Like, have you seen the new one?
No.
They do something in it that really annoys me, like that I hate about a lot of modern movies. Like, so they set up this really interesting character who's like the synthezoid for this film.
Mm-hmm.
He's really cool, got a great like personality to him. He has a really great character arc, and then right at the end they give him Ellen Ripley's line from Aliens, like the whole "get away from her, you bitch." And I'm like, this guy was interesting enough on his own. Stop doing the whole wink wink crap,
Yeah.
please. I hate it so much. It's in like every modern franchise like reboot or everything. They're just like winking at the camera. I blame Joss Whedon. Fuck that guy.
Why do you think Joss Whedon's responsible?
Because you know what? After the Avengers came out and the Avengers was dead successful, every major studio started to try copy the Joss Whedon way of writing.
Yeah, I see. I would almost blame like the James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy for that. Like,
But James Gunn puts a lot of heart into Guardians of the
That's fair,
Galaxy,
yeah.
and it's not just the
it's been
jokes into it. Like,
it's been taken from it, is what I would say. Like,
they strip
influence.
away all the soul that goes into it, and they just think it's surface level jokes, and that's how you get a lot of shite nowadays. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. People are giving James Gunn shit because he's doing Superman. I think he's perfectly suited for a Superman film. Like
Fair.
the heart that he puts into like just like Star-Lord's journey, I can imagine him doing it really well with Clark Kent. And like, I think he's smart enough to know he's not going to give the same humor as Guardians of the Galaxy to Clark Kent and Superman. That would be weird.
Yeah, it's not the same. Because it's not fourth wall, but like it's not the same like normality. I feel like Superman has such it's become a comic book podcast already. But I feel like Superman is such a like has such potential for being a really lame character. I used to hate Superman until I read Grant Morrison's All-Star Superman, which influenced the title of my old podcast, All Star Super Nerds, because reading that, it's like I always thought like before, oh, Superman, it's like who gives a fuck? Like he's just, I liked Smallville and stuff, but like he's just a superpowered guy. He's like a boring person ultimately, like in terms of the way his character is represented most of the time. But then in All-Star Superman, he's like suffering from radiation poisoning from like kryptonite basically, and he gets effectively cancer and he's going to die, and it's about him being like having to like come to terms with the reality of being not immortal and actually having to settle down his life. And I just really enjoy the realism of that character, and I guess like you could apply that the same as where James Gunn applies this reality filter to Guardians that no superhero movie had really had in the same way. Like Iron Man touched on it a little bit, which is why everybody loved Iron Man, but like it was this whole new level of it, and I could see him implementing the same thing on Superman and actually doing it really well.
See, I've always seen Superman as like, yeah, he's the guy who's got all these powers and the stuff, but that's not what makes him interesting. It's the fact that he was raised by good people and was raised to be a good person. That's what informs his character, not his powers.
Yeah.
Then you have Lex Luthor, who's the opposite of that, who's been raised with all the power in the world and is a complete egomaniac.
Yeah.
So like those two are a really good, interesting dynamic between like what power means, both in a literal and figurative sense.
I guess it's like I suppose it's me having been born into the comic era later, and obviously comics have been going around for just so long, but like coming in at a point where, so everything I read was like graphic novels really at first, so it was all like Sandman and like Saga and things like that, so it was like all very modern stuff. So to me, to compare to like that, what would have effectively been you buy this once a week and it's for a like 12-year-old or something.
I can't do
reading
those kind of comics anymore. I much prefer like the Sandman and Saga.
Yeah.
Like this is just a complete story. I can read it isolated from everything else. I don't have to read like 700 other issues to get to know what's going on.
Yeah, to like catch up on it. I think it's probably that's maybe where I've got like my idea of Superman, because Smallville obviously is like totally different in that it's
just a high school kid finding his place in the world, really.
Yeah, and it's not like about the super guy, and it's the same reason why Spider-Man was always spoke to me, because it was this kid who didn't know what he was doing, and that's the whole vibe. But this is total deviation from where we
are such nerds.
Yeah, could do a totally separate podcast all on its own from that. I just realized I said I was going to stick a timer on, and guess
that was very
didn't
Clark
do
Kent
it.
of you right there.
Like, put on my vision. That's how long is that?
I don't know. I can't see.
Oh my gosh. We've apparently already been going for like 24 minutes. That's what I mean. It's like it's so easy to just run away with it. Okay, so what else? Right. Okay. So I'm gonna do my quick fire stuff. I mean, like, just to give some context, because I've had some feedback about the podcast, and some of it is, well, the rambling is good. People kind of want to know who you're talking to and context to me, and kind of like, who is this person and why do you have them on? Well, I've already explained. I'm
a geek. Keep the Superman thing in. I'm demanding the Superman cut of this episode stay on. Shut up, you fucking nerds.
If you don't like comic books or horror movies,
grow up.
Yeah, learn to have fun. Like, life is about fantasy, because
stop watching Succession
depressing.
for the 5th time and fucking grow up.
Fucking bootlickers, man. Everyone's a bloody bootlicker. Like, oh yeah, the Kardashians. Oh, crazy rich Asians. No, fuck off. We all want to just be. We just want to be poor and dreaming of living in Rivendell.
Crazy rich Asians.
That's a TV show. That's not just a random targeted attack.
I know. I thought you were referring to the movie from 2018. I was like, I've not heard about that in fucking years.
And now I'm suddenly like, is that the thing that I'm thinking of? Is it? Yeah, no, Crazy Rich Asians, I'm sure is a TV show. I've seen clips of it on like TLC. Me saying this is I like literally will watch like so many episodes of Say Yes to the Dress when they're spending like my entire year's salary on a wedding dress. But like Crazy Rich Asians, I'm sure is a show where they are just spending too much money. And I hate that. I hate that. Like, make your own furniture.
Did you make all this furniture?
Not all of it, but it's I made this. I should say I didn't build it from scratch. I I upcycled it. I could build it from scratch. I know how to do that, but I didn't with this. I refinished that little. This is rubbish for all of you people. I'm just But yes, and a lot of the things in here are just things that I made and painted, and because things are too expensive to.
I'm just gonna build my own house.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Yeah.
Build your own house. Like, don't even buy the land.
It's gonna be made of leaves and towels and blankets and pillows, but it's gonna be mine.
Yeah. I think that might constitute homelessness, but it's gonna be yours. It's fine. That's your bit, isn't it?
I already have the look for it.
So I'm going to take you through. How do we know each other? That was one thing, which is we met at like Tenants one night. I think.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think did we spoken beforehand on that? Because I think we might have interacted like on Twitter or Instagram or something.
Maybe I have a tendency to just like start responding to people and then be like, "You're my friend now." Like,
was it the Tenants when we sat up at the front next to each other?
I think so.
Yeah, we had spoken before that, definitely. But I think Tenants is when I properly got to know you.
I do try and like, it's weird because in any other situation I can't network for shit, but I love like networking with comedians because you just make fun of them and they're like, I like you. And if they don't, they're probably not a very good comedian.
Yeah, as soon as Kat met me, she just called me a piece of shit.
Yep.
Like, it insulted my hair.
That's
and my clothes, my life. Said, your parents were right in giving you up, you little creep.
That's terrible.
Kat is actually my real mum, and this has just been the most long-awaited reunion in all of time. My trauma's healed now. I don't need to do comedy anymore. Like,
I dropped you off at a bus stop. I picked you up at the bus stop. That's. Oh man.
This is just visitation rights.
It's actually enforced. That's why I was at jury duty last time. We had to cancel. It wasn't jury duty. It was court saying I actually had to take responsibility for my. What age are you?
I'm 28.
28-year-old son. I had you at 1-year-old.
I mean, considering the location we're in, that's not impossible.
Just hey, this is. I was going to say fancy. Bridgeware's kind of fancy. Bridgeware's actually very fancy, but not.
I've not seen enough of it to comment.
No, because right now it just looks like any other council estate.
Yeah. Renfrew's pretty much the same.
Yeah. No. If you look up that way, it's just $10 million houses, which just means that this is a very overpriced council estate. Doesn't actually benefit. Anyway, what I was going to try and do. So we'll keep this relatively quick fire. You can give the answer and then an explanation. Yeah, this makes it fun. So when did you start comedy? I
started in late 2021. My first ever gig was at the Keg in October or November 2021 in Paisley. It was I'd written just a bunch of jokes on my phone, read them off. It was a 15-minute set. I didn't know about set timings back then. I just read it all and it took me 15 minutes. Got a couple of laughs. I walked away from that thinking, oh, fuck yes. Next stop, Hydro, baby. Fucking yeah. The next day, went to the Monkey Barrel free-for-all for the first time. Died on my arse horrifically.
Yeah, you tried to do 15 minutes.
No, I tried to condense it into 5 and it was just, I hadn't learned set writing or how to take what's good and work with it yet. And but then after that, just did a couple more wee open mic gigs and then met Jack Traynor, Kyle Samuel, and Charlie Ashton pretty early on. Within the next week, we had all decided to go down to Hot Water Comedy Club in Liverpool together.
Fucking A.
And nothing will bond you as friends more than a road trip to Liverpool, where with Jack Traynor and Kyle Samuel and Charlie Ashton. Did you ever meet Charlie Ashton? I think he's down in Manchester now, but he used to be up in Glasgow.
No, I don't think. Well, maybe. No, I don't think.
Looks kind of like Jesse Eisenberg. Mank lad. He's very funny.
Mank lad. No, that sounds legitimately dangerous. Who was driving?
Kyle was.
Weirdly, it feels like the safest over you and Jack. I feel like Kyle.
The scariest thing I found out about Jack is that he can drive. I don't want to see what happens. Jack, I love you, but like,
yeah, he does give a road rage kind of vibe.
I can't say that because we'll end up getting this taken off air. But
oh, poor Jack. I've literally met him like maybe twice. Probably like.
You know what? He's genuinely one of the loveliest and most supportive guys ever. I'm glad he's my pal.
That's so nice to hear. That's like a really good thing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was my first gig.
That was your first. That's so funny. I love that. I just went up and did 15 minutes.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Like, have you done comedy before?
I still have the video of it, and for a laugh, me, Kyle, and Alan put it on in Alan's gaff when we were working on our Fringe show, and it was the most painful experience of my life watching it back.
I really struggle to do that. Like even now, like let alone. I feel like that's a really bad first gig.
It's just like I don't know. I'm thinking of putting them side by side when like I don't know if I get to another telly gig or something like that. Just put them side by side and see the progress. And if there's none, I'm gonna be very sad.
Oh, that'll be bad. No, I'm sure you've made progress.
Yeah.
So who like we're going into like some favorites here. So who is your favorite comic globally, like on the big stage?
I really love Sloss. I've been getting into him like quite a lot recently. I love the way that he writes. You know, it's intelligently written. It's funny. It makes you think without patronizing you. And his shows always have like something to say at the end, but not in a way that feels like, oh, I just want to talk about the issue and I'm gonna put a little punchline in it just to make it worthy at a comedy club. I think the way he writes is just very funny. I've never met him, but I've been told he's a lovely guy. Also, I love like Pete Davidson because he was one of the ones that made me realize that I could maybe do it because, as we know, like his dad died in 9/11. A lot of his jokes are about that, and I love the way that he never goes for audience sympathy. It's always about the comedy with him when he brings that up. Really like his style, and Larry Dean is probably my favorite UK comic. Absolutely adore Larry. Similarly to Sloss and Davidson, Larry just knows how to get the funny out of like any subject, and he's like everything from his animated delivery to like the little what's the word for it, incursions that you say in speech, something like that. Yeah, he's got kind of a Jim Carrey-esqueness to him, which I really like, and he's a really lovely dude as well. Like I was doing some Laughing Friends back in summer sometime right before I was doing Rosie Jones, and Larry had gone on before me, and he was doing material about being autistic because he had just gotten I think he just gotten a diagnosis or something like that. He's doing material about it, and he was doing, as we know, he's queer as well, and he was doing material about being queer and autistic, and I had to follow him.
You're like, fuck me.
And I just went up and I was like, why, gay, autistic, and shares the name Dean, what are the fucking chances of that? And then it was just like putty in my hands. Like good. Mark came back into the green room and it was just like, sorry, Dean.
It's like, I should have thought that through, I guess.
But I don't mind it because that's always going to happen. You're always going to get interloping and like really similar experiences with this kind of stuff, and like I love Larry to death, and he's just like getting to win the BBC New Comedy Award while he was the host was like really surreal. Like I don't know what they've cut of the thing that you watched, but see when they announced that I'd won it, and like my face turns into like a giddy schoolboy. Yeah, pure just like a shock and awe. Like that was not put on at all. I was just so fucking astounded that I'd won the thing.
We'll talk. Let's talk a little bit more about it in a little second. But with Daniel Sloss, I do think he's like really personable, which is that thing that like people like enjoy about him. I think like obviously it's the same thing as what you're saying. You're gonna come across people with similar experiences. That's kind of what it is, isn't it? It's finding the things that you think funny in your life that other people will think are funny. Because you can go up and say like, oh, here's a funny thing that I thought was funny, and everybody's like, that's weird and unrelatable, and you're like, oh, great. It's really easy when you're neurodivergent. But Larry, I fucking love Larry Dean. I started seeing him, I think, on maybe Reels years and years ago, and then I saw him. He came out for Auntie Donna. They did their show in Glasgow, and he was the opener for them. And I was with my partner, and he didn't know him, and I was like, "You're gonna love this guy. He's so funny." And I just really love that he's doing something really different than other. I think to go up and be brave enough to do accents and to do acted bits and all of that, and I obviously do some acted bits. It's the bit I find the most difficult is when I have to suddenly go into character and do an acted bit, because you're like,
you have to like commit to it 100%, otherwise the audience is going to smell that you're not that confident on it.
And then they'll like it becomes cringe as opposed to it being like this very funny bit. And I think he does it really well.
One that's really good at doing that as well is Pierce Higgins. He's got that bit about working in curries that I won't spoil on here, but it's like it's a kind of bit that needs 100% commitment or it doesn't work, and Pierce always goes for 100% commitment.
I love Pierce. I think he is one of the funniest people about, and he's such a lovely guy. Like he's just really nice to interact with. And he has a whole bit about, I think I've said this before, but like he has a whole bit about his favorite aquatic animal, and obviously a big bit of my set is also about my favorite aquatic animal, and I had to follow him, and I just was like, hell yeah, bro, like fuck yeah to the aquatic animal based comedy. That's what we're here for. But he's a fucking brilliant guy. So who's your favorite local comic then? I mean, I know that's kind of harsh because it's like, you know, all of these people.
I don't know if I have a favorite really. Like I think I enjoy watching a lot of different varieties of them because you learn the most. Like you know, I could watch Stuart McPherson, Jennings, Buchanan all on the same gig, and you would get a very different experience from all of their sets. Just throw off a couple of names that I really love watching in the gigs. Those three, obviously, Susie McCabe, Eleanor Morton, Chris Thorburn, Sam Lake, Ralph Brown. I really like. Paddy Linton is a fucking legend. Billy Kirkwood, Charlie Wallace. I mean, there's not many that I dislike watching. Like, I think if you'd asked me to name the ones that I don't like watching, that'd be a much shorter list.
That's good though.
But basically, my favorite local comics are whoever I'm gigging with. Really, I like watching them when they're on stage and like seeing what they're doing, enjoying it, and also like, oh, could I learn anything from watching that? Like, it's a great circuit we've got up here in Scotland, and I wish TV down south would take more notice of it.
To be honest, it should just be like the fact that BBC Scotland and like ITV don't have a much bigger focus on comedy, when like it's so much of what we do up here is just like crazy. Cause
like Liam Farley as well, absolutely adore him. He's one of the funniest guys I ever met and one of the soundest.
It really is a case where I think I'm the same as you. Is I every time now I'm out on the scene more. Every time you go out, you come out with a new favorite comic. You're like, oh my god, they're amazing, and like, oh, I love that they did this style, and it's really interesting to see like where people kind of fit into their own niches better, and how they kind of like really great hosts versus like really people whose sets just are really tight all on their own. Because you see that like with hosts especially, like I feel like the best hosts are always like these really hyperactive folk. Like you've got Billy Kirkwood. I've seen Kate Hammer host a bunch of things recently.
She's fantastic at hosting.
So funny, and she does the same thing with as Larry Dean actually with the physical comedy. Because Larry Dean has like the best like reverse balance when he does this like the back bend thing, but Kate is perpetually like 5 inches from the ground at all times. Like she's just. But yeah, it's every time you go out, you see someone, you're like, oh, they were brilliant, and there is always something to learn, which I really love. I saw Janie Godsley at
phenomenal.
yeah,
Were you at the one where she was doing Darren's night?
yes,
Yeah, and she just said, "Give me suggestions, and I'll do a 5 about it."
yes.
We were at the back, just like fucking. Oh my god, this is so fucking cool.
Like
man.
this,
Like,
the ice came out of that, and I was like, "That was a fucking masterclass. That was amazing." And I'd not seen her do stand up before. I'd seen her talk about a bunch of stuff, and seen her do the Trumpus cunt stuff and all of that. And I didn't think that like much of it. I just was like, "All right." And then I saw that, and I was like, "Holy shit! That is like what 20 years of experience, or however long she's been doing it. That's what that becomes because that wasn't a set. That was like just." Lifetime of jokes, and I fucking love that.
She's fantastic. I'd love to go see like one of her solo shows if she ever does
Yeah.
tour again.
Just to actually see a full production. I'm gonna do another little check soon as I. Okay, we're good. That's 42. Yeah. Where's your favorite kind of venue, kind of around, like in the Central Belt, I guess, or well, in the UK? Where's your favorite venue you've played?
My top 3, I guess, would be Hot Water Comedy Club in Liverpool, Blackfriars on a packed night, and it would be between. For the third one, it would be between the Stand in Glasgow or Monkey Barrel on a weekend. It's the most fun you'll ever have. Like I love those clubs. Like Hot Water was the first ever club I played. Blackfriars is just becoming like a massive hub for Scottish comedy, and Chris is just fantastic to work with, and I really hope that it grows up and just keeps becoming like this really integral part of the scene. And you know, obviously like the Stand and Monkey Barrel are like the 2 heavyweights going for it with in terms of the talent they put on. That it's just really great to play, and yeah, whenever I've got a gig at any of those places, I'm always excited about it.
Yeah.
Like,
you know it's going to be good. They're all like, it's the low ceiling, fanned seating, like big beautiful graphic behind you kind of thing, or big exciting graphic behind you. It just makes for like that. It is quintessential comedy club.
Aye.
And there's a reason they do it that way, because you feel the difference between like a long room and a fan room, or like one example, I think I've talked about this before, but like one example is the Panopticon is a really hard room to get laughter in, because as soon as you laugh it disappears.
Because the audience is mostly dead.
Well, yeah, ghosts.
Or soon to be ghosts.
But out with that, any laughter just immediately goes into the rafters. It's like gone. You need that kind of, it should feel like you're gonna bump your head at all times, so that you'll have to laugh in a wee bundle, and reflects back.
If that place was properly renovated, I could see it becoming a great venue for comedy, but like it's just, I don't know, I feel they could be managing that place a bit better.
It's very it's the challenge between preservation and modernization, and it would be, if I had $1 million to just like throw at one thing, sure, I think that would be a really great project to put it into.
I'd be happy if they just got better microphones.
That would be a good, that would be, something that doesn't pop. That would be lovely, like every time. But I think it's still you get a proper sense of the history whenever you walk in, and it would be like trying to keep that and also make it safe to go on the second level. To be able to step on the stage without feeling you're gonna fall through it. I still love it. What's your favorite kind of gig that you've done recently, TV excluded?
To be honest, the TV gigs I don't enjoy as much as just a good circuit gig. Like, see a packed out Tuesday night at Glasgow Stand for Red Raw. It's like the best room in the UK, arguably.
Yeah.
Or a Saturday at Monkey Barrel for like the 5, 7, and 9 p.m. shows. The most fun you'll ever have as a comedian, like on stage, for sure. And I've only ever done the Sundays down at Hot Water, but I'm doing a Wednesday night there in November that I'm very excited about, where it's like 15 minutes and in the new venue, and hopefully that becomes my
next favorite.
Yeah.
That's good. I did Red Raw for the first time 3 weeks ago.
How'd you get on?
It was so good. So it was Kate hosting, and obviously it's like packed. I felt like, I'm trying to think, like, so I, for whatever reason, did not want to do just my regular 5. So I added in about 2 minutes of new stuff, and which I feel like is ridiculously risky. But I was like, fuck it. And the new stuff is all about my dad. And I told my dad to come up. So I had to immediately leave after my set and drive down south with him to look after my nana. But like, I was like, come up and see if you can make it in time, like see if you can see the set. And my dad's just like at the back of the room pissing himself laughing because he's just like, it's all about me. And he's like, I was getting on at him when we were down there because I was just like, he kept telling people my jokes, and I was like, you realize like you're telling people my jokes, like, yeah, I get that you think they're funny, but those are my laughs. How dare you take them? But it itself went really well. I think like it still got a really great response, and to the point that there was like 30-40 seconds of laughter, and I was just standing there. I was like, guys, you're eating into my time. Like, you need to shut up so I can like keep going, which was really nice. But it's a really friendly space, and there's no denying that it's like almost a guaranteed laugh. I feel like I mean, you've probably seen more of them than me. I think I've only been to that one. So
I like to go every week if I can.
And do like, I generally, is it always like a really nice crowd? Like, even if is anyone ever shit?
A couple times, yeah, but like it's one of the things that we learned pretty early on is like, if you can't get a laugh at Red Raw, then what the fuck are you doing? Like, it's the most friendly and giving room in Scotland. And I've seen some. There was one guy who fuck it, I'll say it because I don't think he does comedy anymore. It was when Jack was doing his first Red Raw. It was this Cypriot fella who walked on, did a bunch of jokes that didn't land, and then just goes and says, "Oh well, I guess you're not my audience," and then stays on there for another uncomfortable 2 minutes. I'm like, mate, if Red Raw in Glasgow is not your audience, you're not a fucking comedian.
Yeah, I feel like. Yeah, like if you're, that's the easiest room you could do for real.
I do enjoy also watching the type of comic that goes on there, which is the mid-40s old man clearly on a mental health crisis or like midlife crisis, just going up and living that on stage, just bringing out like really shite jokes and dressed like a bag of washing up on the fucking stage. And just not making an effort to make a connection with any of them, because doing like grumpy old man as an archetype in comedy it can work. It's really fun. Like Raymond Mearns is fucking great at it. Gary Little's great at it. But see, when they do it and you can tell they're nervous, never works.
Yeah, because it needs to be like, I am confidently a grumpy old man. I think there's oh no, that's going to skirt away. Goodbye. Goodbye thought. No, I think yeah, one thing that I see quite often is that kind of older gentleman who's decided to do a comedy, and then all of his bits are basically like 1980s patter, and it's like, you know, here's a joke about my wife, ba-doom-tsh. And you're like, here's a joke about my penis, ba-doom-tsh.
I mean, if you're still doing that shit in fucking 2024, grow up.
And it's like, how are you? Like, I've been to things where I've seen people like that, and yet, like, you're literally like I've seen people make literally transphobic jokes, verging on racist jokes, and the like people.
So you've been to Free for All?
Yes, I've heard of that. But yeah, like that basically, where it's just like, but it's even been in like semi-competitive kind of formats, and people still be like, oh yeah, that was brilliant, you were so funny, and I'm sitting there like, what? Like who? What? And then immediately you're like,
you're talking about, and I'm gonna enjoy it when the camera stops.
we can actually discuss it, because I would just, it's like, you're like, no, like, you, as soon as someone says anything along that line, like, you don't stop them per se, like, if you're like, okay, that's teetering the line, but you don't commend them afterwards. You say, hey, I don't think that joke was particularly good, like. But yeah, we can discuss that afterwards then. What time are we at again? See, this is why you set a timer.
Looks like 51 minutes.
Awesome. Well, I've got so many more things to ask you. So let's do a little in the middle goodbye, and then we can come back. And
Cool.
And if you need the toilet, you can pee.
Cool.
So that pretty much sums us up for like this first part, because it's definitely going to be 2, because we have so much to talk about. We're getting on like a house on fire.
I'm not going to set your house on fire. I'm not like that much of a fucking school shooter.
It's like, I know you're autistic, so behind the mask you're going, seriously? Oh God. Oh no, I will. If we have to do another episode, I'm gonna set it on fire. I'm gonna do it, and you're just like, that's funny. I know. No. So yes, thank you very much for coming on for this half so far.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll be back in like 2 weeks' time, hopefully, with more and amazing stuff about Dean and his awesome podcast and being a televised comic, which is just like, biggest deal ever, and more about like comedy and why we do this mad hobby. But thank you for joining me, and see you next time.
Hey.
Ciao, ciao.
It's out on a limb.
Hey, if you dug this episode of Out on a Limb, make sure to subscribe for new episodes every month.